Welcome in to the Thursday night football preview. Another good matchup this week. This is kind of a game that we thought would have more consequence, right? Like these two teams, people were high on the Broncos with Russell Wilson coming into the season. People were high on the Colts with Matt Ryan coming over from Atlanta, and we haven't seen it yet, right? It hasn't really gelled yet. Doesn't mean that they're two teams that are done for the season by any means, but so far through the first quarter of the season just hasn't panned out.
Right. Both coming in very underwhelming, to say the least, right? And for Indy, it's Matt Ryan. What is he at this point? Is he really done as a quarterback? Because he has better weapons, better offensive line, better team. In the Colts, he was supposed to be another veteran leader with a good roster who was going to find a way to win games. And we just haven't seen it, right? His struggles in the last couple of years were, supposed to be because he had a bad team and a bad offensive line, and now he's on Indy, and they are not doing much. Granted, they still are a run-first team with Jonathan Taylor, and that hasn't translated to wins either. And their defense isn't playing nearly as good as it has in years past. So there's a lot of letdown there for Indy. Then you move to the Broncos, who bring in Russell Wilson. Talk about hype. With his receivers in that roster, we lived in Denver, and we know that for years they've been saying they're a quarterback away. And why is that? Because they felt like with the combination receivers they got, the talent they had when they had Noah Fant and Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler, all these receivers were good, young, talented receivers, but no good quarterback to throw them the ball. And now they have Russell Wilson, and they still look a little lost on offense, which is a big mystery at this point. It's got to come down to their head coach, right? Like, what are you doing wrong that this isn't working out so far? Maybe they need more time to gel. Who knows? Broncos defense, have they been doing enough to win games? They've certainly held certain, teams and looked decent out there, but it hasn't translated with only a 2-2 record so far. And again, underwhelming for both of these teams. Both come in needing a win, and only one of them is going to get it.
Right, that's a good point. Who needs it more would probably be a good question. But Jonathan Taylor ruled out of this game. That's definitely going to hurt the Colts. I think they rely on him tremendously. He's the best running back in the league, arguably. So when a player like that is out, got to find other ways to win, right?
Right.
I like Hines as a player, but definitely a different skill set, right? More on the backfield, going to see a lot more screenplays, I would say. But both these teams, as far as offensive production, Denver currently 21st in offensive yards, Indianapolis 19th. So we're similar in that manner. Really hasn't transferred to points, I would say. We could take a look here, but both teams really have had low-scoring games throughout the season, it seems like. Even when, Indy played Kansas City was held to 17. They only scored 20. So I expect low scoring in this game for sure. And I'd like to see Matt Ryan figure it out eventually, right?
Yeah, you think that there's going to be more pressure on him with Jonathan Taylor being out of this game. But they still are a run-first offense. Don't get me wrong there. They're going to run Hines and try and still rely on him, but probably use Matt Ryan more in the screen game as well. So he's got to step up a little bit at least to show that, okay, we don't need you to be a world beater. We don't need you to throw deep balls every play. And, you still got an elite receiver in Pittman, assuming he's healthy and playing. I did not see if he was on the injury report and had a status this week. Do you know that one off the top of your head? Pittman was on the injury report a few weeks ago, but I know he was back. Yeah, I don't think he's on the injury report this week. So there's some positive news, at least for them. But still, just because you have an elite receiver like that doesn't mean you have to throw it deep every play. I think they just need to play it steady, maintain the offense, try to avoid the big mistakes, and they can still put points on the board.
Yeah, for sure. And are the Colts out of it is the big question I want to know. Yeah. At 1-2-1 in their division, the AFC South, I don't think they're out of it quite yet. I mean, it's early in the season still.
Right.
Still figuring out. Looks like, Tennessee is probably going to evolve as the team to beat. Jacksonville's still in the mix there. They looked pretty good so far. I think it's fair to say Houston is likely not going to be a contender this year. Early draft pick maybe next year. But the Colts are still the mystery team for me. Are they a team that can make a run here? I mean, has the league changed where Matt Ryan is no longer – that style of quarterback no longer works? That's another conversation to have.
That's a good question, and his style has changed now that he's in his later years. He's not a run it and gun it kind of guy anymore. He's a, manage the game and make the plays you're supposed to make kind of guy. But I do think that could be something that plays into this one, his efficiency, his effectiveness. Whichever team loses this game really backs themselves into a corner. If Indy ends up, with another loss and only one win in that division, it backs them into a corner, right? And if the Broncos, you could say the same thing in another tough division where you're already one of the basement dwellers. Granted, the Raiders only have one win. It's against the Broncos, so they're technically still ahead of them in the standings, but it would balance out the rest of the season, so they would probably be behind them. So neither team can afford to lose this game, and that's a tough spot to be.
Yes, back to the Colts are dead last in points scored on the season at 57.
Oh, they got shut out one week. Yep. Yeah,
they're behind the Bears, but then Denver's right there at 30th.
Wow,
for points scored.
Yeah, and that's, again, surprising for the offense that Denver's supposed to have. And that was when, with a healthy running back, with a healthy Javonte Williams, who's now out for the season.
Right, for sure. But then you look at these two quarterbacks, they're respectable quarterbacks. Matt Ryan certainly in the Hall of Fame conversation. Russell Wilson, a few more years left in his career, but I'd say that's going to be a tougher conversation. But, I mean, he's right there, got the Super Bowl in his belt. But they're both playing pretty well. It really seems like that hasn't gelled, right? Colts are 10th in the league in passing yards per game, 6 touchdowns on the season. 5 touchdowns on the season for the passing offense. The Denver Broncos at 18th, hasn't looked really that good.
That's rough.
And they have a new coach as well, so it takes time to adjust, right? Frank Reich has been there, so maybe that's helping out a little bit. And maybe it's just bad luck with the Colts, right? They did beat the Chiefs, right? They played the Chiefs tough and knocked them off. So, are they better than what their record shows? Are they better than what some of the games that we've seen from them? That's the questions I have going into this one. Questions with Michael Pittman being injured, now Jonathan Taylor injured. Got to find somebody to step up. Ellie Cox has been stepping up.
Big game last week. Yeah.
Yep, big game last week. Moved to tight end now, right? So maybe that's somewhere they can, they can find some sort of offensive production, right? Because it's gonna be tough sledding if they don't. Right. Switch over to more of the Broncos conversation. I mean, I look at their team. I think they're really good in the secondary. They've only given up 1 touchdown to a receiver so far this season.
Oh wow, yeah.
But really, I think their defense has been playing pretty well overall. But then you look at the offensive side of the ball, Javonte Williams with the ACL now out for the year. Melvin Gordon's been having fumble issues. The receiving core is extremely stacked. Jerry Jeudy is the real deal.
Yeah.
And he's starting to come on now, right? He's gone through so many quarterbacks and so many coaches. Now is the time for him to come out, right? Cortland Sutton, great player as well. I like KJ Hamler as a player.
I do too, and it's a good roster. That's what we've continued to talk about with this team. Why isn't it working right now with Russell Wilson? Why aren't they clicking the way we expected in the preseason? The hype they got for, can they compete with Kansas City in the division? I mean, they can't right now, not at all. So something's got to give here with the Broncos, and how do you match what the defense has been able to do in holding teams to 10 or fewer points a couple times, and the offense just couldn't take a lead and maintain it. So I mean, the record still shows 2-2 is not a bad record to have, but they certainly are still below expectation and need to find a way to get it going. The big question is what will happen with the run game. Melvin Gordon was used as a backup running back. Is he going to be now the running back one, or are they going to still kind of split carries and use him more as RB2 and bring in the young guy? I'm blanking on his name right now, but make him RB1 and still use Gordon RB2 because of the fumbling issues. Ultimately, if you turn the ball over that many times, it's not going to work out for you. It's going to backfire on you. So if that backfires, then you need to have something to go to on offense. The run game is going to set up the pass game. If they know you're passing all the time, and this Indy defense is not something to write off, right? They have good cornerbacks. They have good backfield. They've got a good pass rush. Granted, the injuries this week, I think for them are, Shaquille Leonard is out for this one. When you have a star that big who's not playing in the game, that's certainly bodes, not well for your defense. Certainly a centerpiece of that defense, but they're good enough that they can rebound from that and still play well. So we'll see how that works out for this Denver pass game versus that Indy backfield. Specifically is what I'm looking at.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because both these teams have great players in the secondary. The stats show that as well. The defense versus receivers, the position of receiver on the season, the Colts are number one with the fewest yards allowed.
Really?
456. The Broncos are second at 472. Let's not forget this Colts team in our AFC South prediction, we mentioned, is this the best cornerback duo in the league?
Yeah, I definitely said no to that, but still, but that right now they are, according
statistically they are through 4 weeks, right? So Stephon Gilmore, adds to that. So the storyline is really on the offensive side of the ball. They just haven't got any production. The defense has been doing their part, it seems like. Denver only giving up one touchdown to a receiver on the season. The Colts only giving up 3 touchdowns to a receiver on the season. I'd have to check the running backs and see how they do against the run. But those are the storylines that I'd be interested in. Did we ever find out what the Broncos backup running back's name? I know we have Melvin Gordon, Mike Boone.
Yes, Boone. Murray. That's the one I was looking for. Boone. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. So Javonte Williams for them is that for sure. That hurts them a lot.
Yes, I mean that's your star, right? He was an emerging running back last year. Really put his stamp on the season, and now not able to do much this season before his injury, unfortunately. Even though I kept saying that Denver still wants to be a run-first team with the elite running back that they had. Now they're going to have to rely more on the pass against a good pass defense. We keep saying it, but this one is very much up in the air, people. If you can't tell by the way we're having this conversation, right? We're going back and forth on this.
Yeah, and the Colts 7th in yards allowed from a running back, 7th best at 300 yards. So the defense has been holding up pretty good, I would say. And, holding Kansas City to 17 points the way they've been playing, I think that shows, right? And I know special teams had a big part to do with that, right? And everybody has bad games. But the Colts, statistically, through 4 weeks have looked good on defense. Again, the questions on offense. Jonathan Taylor out in this one. Javonte Williams out for Denver. It's just, I personally am leaning towards Denver here, just because I like the receiving core. I trust Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
I think they're going to figure it out eventually. Just haven't got there yet. Haven't shown us much yet. But I do think they will figure it out. So I think this is a good time to start. Right? So I'm going to go ahead with the lines at +3. It's Colts +3 at Denver. I'm going to take the Broncos on that one.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm going to take the under on the 42.5. The teams just haven't scored a lot of points this year. So I like those. I like that matchup, and that's what I'm going with.
All right. That's a good place to start, I guess, because I'm going with Indy. I'm taking Indy +3. I think that when we've wavered this much in a game like this, it's going to be a close game. We expect that it'll be a close game. So give me the team who's getting the points. I actually think Indy will win this game and they're getting points. So I picked them to win. I'll take the points. I'm also going the under here. I think that's a pretty safe bet at this point.
42.5.
Two offenses that haven't gotten it going very much. So I'll take the under and the points. That's probably my more confident bet for this one. But the reason I'm picking Indy, a couple of things, right? I told you about the points. That's always in a close game going to be the favorite here, right? I'll take the 3. But also coaching. I think coaching matters. Nathaniel Hackett as the head coach, not done a great job so far, I think. That is where the holes in this offense and the things we're seeing that are going wrong, ultimately the buck stops with him. And if it comes down to coaching, the Colts with Frank Reich have a very big leg up on the Broncos in that area. So whatever pans out on the field is going to come from those head coaches. So give me Indy. I'll take Indy and the points.
Okay, yeah, I like that. One final stat here. Colts 31st in scoring percentage. So that's how many drives they've had that actually resulted in a score. The only team behind them is the Washington Commanders. So I think maybe they're not sustaining drives, right?
Yes,
That's kind of the issue. Let me try to find Denver. Denver's at 21st on that list. And the best in the league right now is a tie between Las Vegas and Kansas City. So that's another matchup we're going to talk about later. Anyway, that's it. You got the Colts. I'm taking the Broncos. Thursday
Which one
night,
of us is which one of us is undefeated on Thursday again?
Yeah. So you're undefeated.
Look at it going, man. Look at it keep it going.
That's why the NFL is so great, right? Especially these short weeks. You just don't know how these teams are going to respond coming off just a couple days of rest, right?
Mm-hmm. So and this is a very competitive matchup. So this is the hardest pick so far.
Yeah, they're evenly matched. I mean, the stats are similar in all categories, it seems like. So which team will come out of this? Which team will be stuck? I think if the Colts go 1-3-1 here, that's a big problem. Whereas, they're in the easier division though, right? So if Denver goes 2-3 in the AFC West, I think it's fair to rule them out. But I think this game is important for both of these teams, right? To avoid going into that hole.
Yes. I do think Indy has the better potential to bounce back if they lose because of the division race and it's going to be a lot tighter there, even with the Titans. They're not a team that's going to run away with it. Whereas the Broncos are in a division that has the Chargers and Kansas City out of them, not to mention the Raiders, who they already lost to. So I think that'll put them in an even bigger hole.
All right, so that's the Thursday night preview. We'll talk to you next week. Hopefully, Anthony can keep this undefeated streak going. You have to play the ESPN streak.
I know, right? Yeah.
What's the high? Have you ever played that before? What's the highest you ever got?
I did when it first came out, and I think I did have I had some good ones going at some point, like 20 something.
Wow, yeah,
like 23 or something. And
I was gonna say I got like 15 one time.
Yeah. So I was in the 20s a couple times.
Anyway,
that's what makes it fun.
If you win this one, if the Colts win, we're gonna sign you up for that next week.
Well, if I'm anybody, I'm betting the under. That's the safer bet it is. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so make your pick, but whatever you do, toss your hat in the ring.